Hello and welcome to another episode of Distory. Tonight we're going to be looking at Dumbo, the flying elephant, and the history there of it, and where are we at right now with Dumbo. So we'll look into the concept, we'll look into the making and production of this, go into a little bit of sad development history of ride vehicles, but then also get to the end, which brings us to New Fantasyland over in Walt Disney World. So sounds like a plan, Stan. Let's get our co-host involved here.
Hello.
Hey, howdy, hey.
Hi.
Hi, just your neighborhood certified flying trash.
But I got my skirt. You can't really see it. It's down here. But
You look great.
we match.
You look great. I look like trash. You look wonderful.
No, you called me trash last time. And
I know,
Dumbo.
but that's
this is like our life.
yeah, but that's like the humor of this.
I know.
For those that don't know, Kate did a lovely bound when we were hanging out in Fantasyland, and she is dressed very similarly. That's definitely the skirt. I don't know what the top was,
It's
but
the same.
okay.
It's the same. Yeah.
It's the exact
like,
same outfit.
Don't just fly soar. Yeah.
Don't just fly soar. Yeah, and I was like, man,
Advice.
you look amazing. You look like Dumbo and the trash cans in Fantasyland. You were like, you think I'm an elephant and trash. I said, no, that's actually, I hold that in high regard. So much so, I have a t-shirt. What's up, Britt? What's
He just
up?
called me trash. So now it's an ongoing thing that I harass him about.
It is. The Disney trash. Hey, Abby,
call
how are
me
you?
trash.
It is. And you know what? I don't think that way. I told you earlier that I think you're brilliant, and I do hold that to a candle. You are one of the smartest people I know in Disney. Let's get it started. Let's do this. Hi, hey, howdy, hey, everybody. Tonight is another episode of Distory, and of course, with me, as always, is my flying elephant partner, Kate, the Disney Cicerone. Not trash. I honestly wish that I had a memory just like Kate. I should probably write that down. Kate, how are we doing this evening?
Oh, I'm good. I'm hanging in there. We're having a lot of wildfires in our area, and it's like the sun has turned blood red, so it's a little unnerving. They're doing a lot of power outages to try to prevent it from spreading. So it's probably a good time for me to go to Disney World. So I'm going to do that.
Yeah,
Get out of
that's.
town.
By the way, sent a picture. The picture was crazy. I felt like you were on
I think I
Tatooine.
have
I didn't
it.
know what was going on.
Oh yeah, this is like the sun. This is what the sun. This is no filter. It's like the sun disappeared, and
looks
actually you can't even see the
like,
sun now. It's worse.
The Eye of Sauron, or whatever that is from Lord of the Rings. Whatever it is, don't go near it.
Yeah, it's wild, but I don't think it'll reach us. I think we'll be okay, but it's unnerving. We for those of you who don't know, we had to evacuate from our home in 2020 because of wildfires, and luckily we didn't lose our home, but we knew a lot of people that did. So it's always a little bit stressful for me and my kids.
Yeah.
But it'll be okay. We'll be all right.
The good thing is that it is relatively far away, and hopefully everything will be fine.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think it'll be fine. I'm going to lean into that. But I am excited to talk about Dumbo, and I'm like, now that I don't know where I wasn't last week on the program for like talking about the movie first, and I'm like, now I've come prepared. Like,
Well, good,
about the
because
movie first.
you know what's funny is because I did zero prep on Dumbo. So
that's funny.
where I leaned in real hard on the ride more, and actually it broke my heart looking up Arrow Development's history, and it's very sad. I have to tell you, one of my beloved ride manufacturers and their demise. It's really, really sad. Anyway, sorry, I got like upset about a ride developer, but we'll get to that in a second. Why don't you start us off with Dumbo, which I've done no research, so please, I would love to learn.
Oh
with
my
everybody.
gosh, so much. So I do have a ride poster at least, but or not a ride, the movie poster from Dumbo. And so this movie came out in 1941, was released by Walt Disney Productions and RKO Radio Pictures. It was basically the answer to a budget problem they had, because they lost a whole bunch of money making Fantasia and Pinocchio, partially because Fantasia had a special sound system that a lot of theaters couldn't have in Fantasound, and Pinocchio was released during the start of the war. So they lost their European market. They and also Fantasia, just people were confused by Fantasia because it didn't have a cohesive plot all the way through. So that, and also they just had a lot of financial. They sunk a lot of money into that plus Snow White. Like these were $2 million films, all like each one. So they had to do something that was cheap. That was their goal. Like economy was their goal, and to help bring the studio out from where it was. So they decided to make a little picture based on a book by Helen Aberson, Helen Aberson Meyer and Harold Pearl, and it was written in 1939. So it was a very new book when they made this story.
Yeah, which is not the norm for Disney. I mean, if you look at it, most of things have fallen out of copyright so that they could just use it as like common creative. But this one, they actually had to go into licensing.
Yeah. Yeah, they did. They licensed it from the author, and they all kind of loved it. They did make some adjustments to it, but they stayed pretty true to the plot. They changed the mother, Dumbo's mother, was named Mrs. Jumbo in the movie, but it's actually named Mother Ella. Timothy Q. Mouse was originally a robin, so a bird named Red. So they did a couple of things, and I actually just saw a whole bunch of stuff at the Walt Disney Family Museum that are original pieces of this. So one of the things they did, this isn't a watercolor, but this is just kind of some art here that I saw. But one of the things they did was they used watercolor backgrounds, which was very rare for Disney. They used them for Snow White, and they used them for some shorts, and they used them for Lilo and Stitch later. But most of the time they used like oil, and I'm going to mispronounce this. Somebody who's an artist, gouache paint, oil and gouache, I think is how you pronounce it. I might have butchered that. So apologies to all you art people out there. But anyway, so they used backgrounds that were watercolor as part of their way of saving money. I also have this. This is so cute. This is like one of the original drawings of him holding the feather. So cute. And so they sped up the animation by using, this is so interesting. They used like less experienced animators and just put more experienced animators overseeing them to try to save money on this. So you think of all the other films were like $2 million budgets. This one was I've heard 850,000 or 950. I've heard both. So, but it's way cheaper, right? Part of that was because of the cost of animators, which led to, do you know where I'm going with this? I've got to find my picture. Led to something called the animators strike. Because they did not like that there was so many salary, what's the word I'm looking for? Their salaries were not equal. Not just like with older animators, like, or more experienced animators and younger ones, but like you could be sitting next to an animator who was hired like last week and they could be making $20 more per hour or per week than you. And like there was no formal way of like deciding how much everybody got paid, and everybody kind of figured that out. And so they got really upset. And so they all went on strike. I actually have.
I'm actually surprised. Like, listen, I've when I was a kid, I worked for ShopRite, and they didn't have good health care, and it was like my first job. So I'm like, I don't even have health care through this, but I still, camaraderie. I sat out there with the picket lines, and they put a giant rat out there. I'm shocked with Mickey Mouse they didn't put like a giant Mickey rat out there as part of the strike.
They had a whole kinds of signs and things.
I did see the mouse on there, but it was nothing like derogatory against Mickey Mouse.
They had like they had Pinocchio ones, like "There's no strings on us" and things like that. They used because they were all the animators that went on strike, so they used all their artistic skills for all the picket signs, which actually is quite fascinating when you see all of them. There's this one from the Walt Disney Family Museum is an official striker card when they got organized, and then there's a cartoon that is kind of at the top. It's a little blurry, and then it says, inside looking out, there's nothing for us Disney animals to do since you guys walked out on strike. So it's like an animal like laying in a hammock. That was a cartoon for the strikers. So, another thing that they were upset about was the fact that there was a club, a special club that they had in the animation studios called the Penthouse Club. Which this is the membership card, and this is actually somebody's bill from it that's unpaid. But this
Get
was
it, Donald Duck, somebody's bill. What was on that? Did it say anything? Was it itemized or was it just straight up just numbers?
Yeah, it says current month's dues, fountain, gym equipment, massage, locker, and then it says unpaid balance. So this was for Ward Kimball. That's actually one for Ward Kimball. But the interesting thing about the Penthouse Club was I don't have a great picture of it because I have a great video of it. There's like a special menu. They had massages. It was like a man's man club. Okay. It was for the men. Women weren't allowed. They had their own tea room that was like the ink and paint tea room, but it had murals on the walls that were things men would like.
Time out. I've seen that movie with Mel Gibson, What Women Want or whatever it is. How do you know? Did you step into do you know what we would like? I can only imagine.
What they assumed men would like. Yes. We're going to keep it family friendly. On a side note, in the Walt Disney Family Museum, the animators made pinup art for the soldiers during the war. And I could never show it on a live because that's how revealing it is. It was like Walt Disney Studios. And yeah, anybody feels free to Google that if you're okay with seeing some of those things. I just can't show it because it's not kid friendly. So anyway, they had similar murals on the walls as they were walking in to this Penthouse Club. Now, so the interesting thing, the reason I'm talking about this is because it's related to the strike. Because the Penthouse Club was, I think, $7 a week or a month dues. It was a lot. So the people who are getting paid $20 in a month or whatever, there's no way they can afford $7. So it necessarily made it like the people who get paid the most get to be in this club, even though it was technically open to everybody. And, oh my gosh, this one's a funny story, too.
Don't you feel like that's like Club 33? Like, technically it's open to everybody, but only a certain few could join. It's like the same thing with Golden Oak. I could move to Golden Oak. Let's say you hit the lottery and you make $3 million, right? You cannot live in Golden Oak. You might be able to buy a house. You cannot afford the taxes, the fees. There's all these ridiculous, like, clubhouse fees, too. Nope. Yeah. It is purposely tiered.
Yeah, it's crazy. So, yeah, that's exactly what happened here with Disney Studios. So these people could not get into this club. And the really funny story is the animators, they had tanning beds, that they could sit up, not actual tanning beds, but places where they could tan on the roof of the studios.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
And these guys, there was no women around, so they wanted an all over tan. So they were all over. No, I know this is a little spicy. So they were tanning with no covering, and the nuns who were across the street could see them, and they complained because they're like, "Why are there all these men on the roof like that?" So.
Yeah, I didn't know which way you were going to go with that. I almost thought you were going to say, it seems like afternoon prayer was always Coach's side. It was very strange. I'm
going to turn bright red now. So, so they were on the roof. And so when I think Walt or whoever, it was just like, guys, you got to cover up because the nuns are across the street. And they figured out where the nuns could see them from, and they wore a towel during that part. And there are pictures on Google of this. It was too much for me to share. But sunbathing was a big thing at the studio.
That's unbelievable that the studio, it really seemed like it was like a good old boys club. Very, very old fashioned. Obviously, gender separated, and just, that's wild. That is wild.
It was definitely the boys club And that's where they hung out and talked all the
Jess
business.
goes Googling. Easy, Jess. Aren't you a nun? What are you doing?
So, bringing it back to Dumbo, because that was a fun little rabbit trail.
Yeah, that was cute.
So, everybody was on strike. So, in Dumbo, there's a reference to the animators' strike. And it is the scene with the clowns. And they say, we're going to go ask the boss for more money. And they go. And so this was a reference to the animators were on strike, kind of like making fun of them, essentially. And I've heard that some of the actual like kind of silhouettes of them kind of resemble some of the animators that went on strike. Because Walt was pretty bitter about it. So Walt did have something to say about all of this, which didn't actually help. So here's what Walt said. He said, in the 20 years I've spent in this business, I've weathered many storms. It's been far from easy sailing. It required a great deal of work, struggle, determination, competence, faith, and above all, unselfishness. Some people think we have a class distinction in the place. They wonder why some people get better seats in the theater than others. They wonder why some men get spaces in the parking lot and others don't. I've always felt and always will feel that men that contribute most of the organization should, out of respect alone, enjoy some privileges. My first recommendation to the lot of you is this. Put your own house in order. You can't accomplish a darn thing by sitting around and waiting to be told everything. If you're not progressing as you should, instead of grumbling and growling, do something about it. They didn't like that.
Well, okay. So here's the challenge, right? When you're in leadership and ownership and the name of the company has you on it, the problem is that it almost looks like a little Marie Antoinette, like let them eat cake. But been in it for decades. It's also not fair. Like anybody who's coming in, this happens a lot with a lot of new hires, is people get like excited, there's exuberance and they want to contribute. But they don't realize, and this happens to a lot of people over a lot of different reasons, but like time. Spending time and trust and relationships, that's a long process. There's no way to shortcut it, you know? So, and even like the hard work of becoming an animator who's world class, you have to fail and become bankrupt how many times? Have the company on the line how many times to become the amazing success that you are. Now, I'm not saying that like you have some like major difference in pricing and structure, but I'll tell you, I guarantee the people that wanted to work really, really hard, who desperately wanted to get into the Penthouse Club, probably was doing everything they could to increase their station within the studio. So I'm not against, I'm like a big fan of like free markets and like actually working in meritocracy, huge fan of all that. But like, I could see in the middle of a strike probably taking everybody off and not having a little bit more decorum to manage it.
Yeah, they didn't like that. And my understanding, I think, of what ended the strike, they eventually came to an understanding with the union and all this. And I believe it was related to him being an ambassador to South America because he was going down there, and that's where they did, Three Caballeros and all of those projects down there. So that was how the strike kind of got resolved. But he wasn't happy about it. And I mean, I think I agree that like I kind of see both sides, right? It's like I see them like they were unfairly paid, like with their peers unfairly paid. Like you got this much and you got this much, but that still kind of happens today too. So I'm like, but they really just saw this as like Walt saw it as a communism thing. He was like, this is a communistic move by people trying to make everything equal, and so that's why he was not for it. And obviously the animators didn't see it that way. They just were working. They said sometimes they had to record that they worked 40 hours in a week when they actually worked like 60 plus. And that happened a lot at Disney Studios. And so I could see for that, absolutely they should have rights to not be killing themselves working like that,
It's interesting. I put in the subscription note, and we didn't talk about this at all, but I wrote a quote, and it's from me, 10% more. And I've done that throughout my career, where I've done 10% more than what everybody else, like whatever the highest improved person in, like, so for example, in sales, just use sales because it's something I'm familiar with. I go in there, I see what the baseline is for like everybody. Then you look at the people who are at the outliers who are at the top, and I'm like, okay, how can I set myself apart? What would be 10% more than what they're doing? And in most cases, it's like nothing. It's like
Yeah.
you volunteer some time, you make sure you mentor with the right people, and you just put in some selfless hours. There's many times where Mel and I have had conversations like, you're getting home so late, like what is going on? Like you're doing so much more. And I'm like, this is building to something better. And I don't know, it's a tough thing for me to sympathize with. I get it and I understand it, but I like being rewarded based on the output, you know? Because I don't
Yeah.
necessarily think it's 100% right. But that's so interesting. And it happened right in the middle of production too. So, you know, they needed to
Yeah.
get something and get it through fast. It's so interesting.
Well, they set their more experienced animators to go work on Bambi, and then they had like the less experienced ones to work on Dumbo. So it's
You
why
know
it's
what?
very simply animated when you see it. It's not like complex at all. Like here's like a sketch
I'm
of some of them.
furiously Googling right now to see. All right, so the budget was 950,000. It grossed 1.3 million for Dumbo. How did Bambi do in terms of just
It was
financials? Bambi was,
this was the most.
oh my God, Bambi
The,
crushed.
yeah. Well, Dumbo was the most successful Disney film of the 1940s. It was the most successful in the 1940s because of the war and everything that was going on there, which I actually have great. I like this. What is
It's
propaganda?
what's weird that Donald. What's weird to me though is, and maybe it's just because the source materials that I'm looking at here not giving me accurate numbers, but Bambi in terms of a financial standpoint, and this came out in 1942, 858,000 was the budget. It grossed in the box office 267 million.
Yeah. Yeah.
Whoa.
It killed. And it really
Whoa.
was like it for what they put into it, was so low. And I think, all of that has to contribute to like how the animators all felt in this process because, like it was made on their, them not being paid very much as
I
part
mean,
of
when's
it,
when's the last time that you saw Dumbo? Do you know what I mean? Like actually sat down and watched the feature film. Has that been recent?
I think it was like a month ago. I was going to do it before now, but I was busy getting ready
Yeah,
for
sure,
it, so.
sure. Yeah, it's interesting. I'm just super curious. I also never saw the Tim Burton one, but that didn't really do all that well, supposedly.
No,
The
I
live
did see
action.
it. I was like, it was fine. It was, but
Yeah, I have a
the-
hard time with the live action ones. They're not all great, but some of them are really good. I like the Beauty and the Beast one a lot.
I know. I'm a little scared to watch the Pinocchio one. I haven't gotten to it yet, so I'm like,
The pictures of it are ridiculous.
I know.
Like it's just
I don't
pictures
like how
of
they've made Jiminy.
Tom. Oh, Hanks is just like this. Well, I don't know. I think Pinocchio looks fantastic, though. I think they did
I mean,
a really
yeah.
good job.
I'm going to reserve judgment until I see it. So
Yeah, I also want to see. I love seeing how they. Like, I saw a little snippet of Pleasure Island. I'm like, oh, that looks really cool. So
Yeah.
I'm gonna have to see it anyway because I did enjoy Pinocchio as a kid. Anyway, let's get back to Dumbo. Can we go into ride, or do you have anything else on film?
I've just one small thing. So the Walt Disney Family Museum, they have something called Hermann Schulte's notebook. And he was a technician in the camera effects department, and he compiled this like really elaborate notebook during like when they were researching all of the visual effects for Pinocchio, Fantasia, Dumbo, like everything during this time from 1938 to 1939. So they actually have the page open to all this research they did with elephants, and you can see it's Dumbo. So this is their actual behind the scenes work with elephants as they were studying Dumbo, and there's also a crow in there.
I mean, I
That
love
was
the fact
brilliant.
that they used live animals to recreate them. I mean, it's awesome now too because I think about the animation that they're doing. Like you just go to Animal Kingdom, like they have it set up. Just watch it. Like so, animals have always been. And I don't really know about Disney's history if he was an activist for animals throughout
Yeah,
his
he
life.
was.
Even the Disney
He
Conservation
really
Fund,
liked.
like it kind of makes
Yeah,
sense. So
yeah. They even had like a little. Oh my gosh, I'm blanking on the name. But outside of Disneyland, they had a little kennel for dogs because of like his love for animals. So he's always very
to,
much
oh, you know
loved
what? I
animals.
read that plaque. It said, "To all that come to this yappy place because of the dogs," right?
Yeah, that's how it goes. Anyway, so that I think that's pretty good for the film. I'll just they did go to Ringling Brothers and Barnum and Bailey. That's what that pass was at the top of that book, by the way. So that's part of, obviously, for their circus stuff. That was part of their research as well, to go to the circus. So transitioning into the actual attraction. Before you get to Arrow, do you know that there was a developer before that, right? You know that?
I have a concept before Arrow. I have a concept art of a dark ride before Dumbo, like the actual flying elephant one too.
Yeah. Okay. Show me what you got.
All right, easy and none.
Sorry, it's been a long day. Show me what you have. Oh no, I don't have that one. That's interesting.
Yeah, so the way that this ride vehicle system, so like you can see what the ride vehicles were supposed to be was like kind of like a little train, right? So you'd have
Yeah.
a clown car and it would pull these guys around and it would move you through the circus area and you would see various acts. Of course, Dumbo would be a part of it. The human cannibal would be a part. If you remember Dumbo, the one scene where they forced the poor little guy to jump out a window and it's like burning and flames and all that stuff.
Can't stand that scene. Oh.
Yeah, right. Exactly. And then you have the matriarchs over here. So it also shows a path that goes where the elephant tent was as well. So it was talked about, but of course, like much great ideas, budget. So didn't happen because of cost.
Yeah, and so there was a company that's actually an Oregon company that was called Irely Aircraft Company, and they were in charge. They actually invented like a lot of classic carnival rides. I'm trying to find them. They made one that was called. We made some Ferris wheels, but they didn't invent the Ferris wheel. They made another one that was called.
Was that
the
guy's
Lupa
name
Plane.
Ferris?
Ferris, yeah. Ferris invented the Ferris wheel. Martin Ferris? What is his name? He really was. It was Ferris that invented it.
I know it was. I don't know his real name. Hang on. I'll get it. Keep talking. I'll find it.
It is something Ferris. I'm trying to find my photo. There. Okay. So
George
if you've
Washington Gale Ferris.
I was close. No, it's not at all. I knew his last name was Ferris. I got something. It's like 20%. Okay. So if you recognize this one, this is actually a modern version of one that Irely Aircraft invented that's called the Lupa Plane. It's very, very common to see in fairs if you go to the fair.
We used to call it the salt and pepper shakers, or people would call it a death trap because you literally would get in a cage and it would flip you around. I've only been on it once. It was very fun.
Yeah, I've never been on it because you're at the total mercy of the people that are operating your ride too. They can like leave you up in the air as long as they want, which freaks me out. So then this one is called the Octopus. This was another one that was created by Irely Aircraft.
Still see them.
So this one is what Disney was going to contract them for to make a modified octopus for Dumbo. So one of the very earliest concept art here showed something like that with like a center pivot point, and you'd see
which we've seen those before. We've seen that style where it's like hanging and suspended from cables. It's not usually elephants. It's usually other sorts of ride vehicles. But I have a colorized version of that, which is the reason why I got the colorized version. Why is this not zooming in? Ugh. All right, I'll just do the old-fashioned zoom where I jam my camera up to the. And the concept and the reason why I'm showing the pink is because you guys remember in Dumbo when those elephants got into the champagne and they started hallucinating and seeing pink elephants? Well, there you go. It was originally supposed to be pink elephants flying like that scene, but then Walt, of course, was like, "Hey, this is a family park. Knock it off with all the booze." And not like he wasn't a during Prohibition. Dad was part of the temperance movement because he invested in that soda company, the soft drink company.
Yeah.
But yeah, he wasn't temperate. I know that.
No, definitely not. He's like his drink was like super strong. Yeah. Yeah, and it was 10 pink elephants on parade was what they were going to call it. But you're right. Like they were like, this doesn't jive in a theme park that doesn't have any alcohol. Maybe not have the inebriated elephants be the main focus.
Yep.
So what happened with Irely is they produced 2 models of the octopus. There was some like first Lee Irely, who ran the company, got cancer, so he got really sick. And then there was just some like back and forth between them creatively. They couldn't get on the same page, and so Disney just was like, "No, we're not going to go with this." So then enter Aero Development, and they then got the contract, and they created a different concept.
Ready? Let's see if we have 1, 2, 3. Same picture.
Oh.
Woo!
Yeah. I didn't wait. Sorry.
Yeah, no. You're good. And this is, again, another great concept art from the one and only Bruce Bushman.
Bruce Bushman. Yeah.
Which,
made a lot
I mean,
of
has
this time.
done so much. I mean, if you think about it, right, Arrow and Bruce Bushman, they're like buddies. They create a lot of the attractions together, and from concepts all the way from like artwork and design all the way to inception. Things to note here. Let me go back to this. Things to note. Once again, still pink elephants, which eventually they do get turned into gray before it actually opens. But now we've moved away from a suspension hanging from chains and just rotating around to now these arms that are on different planes. So guests will be able to, as they say, steer, which they aren't really steering. They're just making the movement up and down. And originally, Timothy was holding a whip and was basically training the elephants. And we do see that in the 1955 version when we get there. But that actually goes through some iterations and changes as well.
Yeah, we'll talk about that. This one, before we move on from that, this was something I found in the Walt Disney Family Museum. This was a concept sketch for Fantasyland, which I think, so you have, of course, Monster the Whale. You actually have like a clown, if you see kind of between those 2 bodies of water. There's like a clown that you walk through.
Dude, that's like the, what's that, The Wonder of the World? That reminds me so much of that.
Oh.
Do you know
yeah,
what I'm
I know
talking
what you're
about?
talking about. Yeah.
Oh, man, hang on. It's like the ancient wonders of the world. All right, I'll look it up. You keep talking.
Well, they do have kind of Casey Jr. down here, and then there is a Ferris wheel. That was part of that Irely project, was that they were planning to do a Ferris wheel, but they had a creative difference about how fast to load it, or the loading procedure, and it was part of the reason that they broke up, was that they didn't part of the reason they didn't work together was because of they couldn't get on board with this Ferris wheel concept either. But there was also a boat ride kind of near the clown. Oh yeah, that looks so much like that.
Right? It's a total rip on the Colossus of Rhodes, near a body of water and guarding a town. Yeah, but this is a part of the 7 ancient wonders of the world. Yeah, dude, I love that. Which is crazy because now I think about it, the Library of Alexandria is one as well. If I'm not mistaken. It's like the Hanging Gardens of Babylon, the Great Pyramids of Giza.
There's so many lists like that. We looked it up while we were traveling because we're like, what's the 7 wonders of the world? And there's literally like 50 different lists. They've revised them over the years. It's like it keeps changing. There's like the ancient wonders of the world, and there's the natural wonders of the world.
Right. Well, natural makes sense, like Grand Canyon. It's things that like people didn't actually build, so.
Right. So, anyway.
The Hanging Gardens, by the way, is like the coolest thing in the world. Like if they existed, it's like just Google it. I can't get into it. It'll blow your mind. Your mind just explodes. I went on a rabbit hole a while ago. I got to get off this website. All right, anyway. I see it.
So Aero Development was going to make these they were going to make the actual lift mechanism. So they were going to make the arms that go up and down, but Disney was going to do the elephants, and they did. And I have a picture of Rudolph Parducci was the one that actually sculpted them. And I have a picture of him doing so. Here. There's him. Oh, look at that.
We got different ones,
That's
though.
a different picture. Mm-hmm. And you'll notice
Mine's from one of the
these are,
Disney archives.
Mine. So the original elephants were also planned to have ears that flap up and down. That was part of their plan. But they found that when the ears flapped up and down, it actually like shook the entire mechanism, so much so that it put extra strain on the lift mechanism, and all of those ear flapping mechanisms, they had so much weight on them. These elephants were originally planned to be the ride was designed for 500-pound elephants, but with the ear mechanisms it was 700 pounds per elephant, which pretty much was the reason it didn't work. And it was I have such a fascinating description of why it didn't work, because I couldn't even like understand it. So an accumulator is the hydraulic equivalent of a capacitor, partially filled with pressurized gas and partially filled with liquid. It's used to smooth out oscillations in the fluid flow and act as a pressure reserve when the pump capacity isn't large enough to handle temporary overloads. The problem is that without a barrier between the hydraulic fluid and the gas can begin to permeate into the fluid. Then if the pressure is released, the gas expands and creates a foam, like when you first open a bottle of carbonated soda. So the Dumbo lift system was supposed to use pressure in the accumulators to balance the weight of the elephant and cars and riders, while the main pump provided the power to move them up and down. In theory, it was a great idea, which was developed by a NASA engineer, but by the time the cars were delivered, they'd gained 200 pounds of weight over the original specification, which probably overloaded the system. As the elephants flew up and down, alternately raising and quickly dropping the pressure, the high-pressure gas in the fluid began to expand and cause it to foam. And there was no way to keep the oil and gas separated. The result was that the system became very unstable. So they had to do something, which, close your ears, kids, they had to do something called milking the elephant because of that, which was removing the foam that was created from that process almost after every time it happened. So milking the elephant was something they had to do.
Well, you don't want a foamy elephant. I've never been a big fan of foamy elephants, so I get it. Yeah, the flapping mechanism blew my mind when I was doing research for this episode. Never realized it. It's such a subtlety, too, in the actual look of the elephant, that little bit of a hinge flap. It would have been amazing if they went like this while you were going up and down.
But fly.
Like, why can't, for the 50th, why can't we get some flappy ear elephants in the future? I think that would be the most amazing plussing
so great
ever. I'm gonna go backwards just a touch.
Sure. Somebody asked me, weren't the Dumbo's hatless from the start? That's Disney World, and we'll get to that in a minute. But yes, yes, they were.
Yes, there were some hatless ones. And in fact, here, I'll show you another. This is a Disneyland brochure that I found that had that same concept art, but I just want to read the little tiny caption that was on the right-hand side. So, like, this is kind of like showing you the cartoon world materializes. And, like, it's funny because it's showing you like Snow White and going, which by the way, it bothers me that we don't have Snow White anymore. And then Monstro, but then of course Dumbo. And down here it says, Disney Magic provides the special thrills on the Dumbo flying elephant ride. Here on the left, passengers can help steer by manipulating the elephant's ears, while Timothy Mouse conducts the aerial circus from his center perch, which I love. It's just cute. Like, I think the concept of steering with ears is just, I like that they even wrote that there.
I love that. Well, it's
and
like,
then, is this the original?
Yeah, that's the ride poster. So it's of course a pink elephant. And that's another thing you can notice there is they didn't have any side cutouts either. That was added later. What year was that? The holes were cut in the sides in 1956. So a year later, when they realized that nobody could climb into the elephants because they were too hard to get into for little kids. So 1956, they cut holes in the sides, which I have a picture of somewhere.
There you go. I got some holy elephants.
Holy elephants. And then there's ones that are before the hole. I was going to try to pull one of those up for you guys.
Yeah,
but...
I didn't have a side angle, but
oh, if I find it, I'll pull it up. But yeah, the original ones did not have... oh, here's one. This one you can even see the wooden seat. See? It's got nothing for you to climb into. There's a good old wooden seat in there. You can see the hands really well, too. For the
Get in. What? Dude, I'm not
look,
getting in this thing. Get in it. It's fine.
Like, I could see why, like, at that point, adults would just send their kids on it because, like, women in skirts and stuff and dresses, they're like, I'm not climbing into that. Like, no way, So...
Yep.
They would just probably put their kids in and then go and stand, on the side.
Yeah, they probably just lifted them in and threw them in.
Yeah, yeah. And so they did get, I have to show you this opening day video. So this is from the actual opening day of Disneyland. So in 1955 in July. And they did a live broadcast. If you remember, it was the largest TV live broadcast that had ever happened in world history at that point. Massive undertaking. Well, Dumbo wasn't working because of all these problems with the foam and everything else.
Yeah, the foaming elephants.
But they didn't want to be like, this ride's not working, and they wanted to include the fact that it was there. So this is a really creative way of showing. They had a little Dumbo that was lumbering around on the broadcast. And then you'll see the ride at the end, but it's not operating. They just kind of pan to it for a second. See? Watch. And then they actually cut off and go to the carousel. So that was their way of like showing that it's here, but it wasn't working. It wasn't working at all. It didn't work until August, and even then it worked not very long.
So because you had that clip, I feel like I want to show you our character meet and greet that occasionally pops out. Did you ever see the Dumbo character meet and greet?
Yes, but you should show everybody because it's my favorite.
It's so good. It's so cute. You see how the feather and everything? It's so fun. I love it.
He's so cute. Oh my gosh, I love that.
Yeah. It's funny because it looks so dramatically different than like the actual character, but like I don't know. I think it's that's exactly right, Jess and Jules. Why is he so adorable? I don't know. I can't get enough of him now.
He's got like a tiny little mini trunk. I think that
yeah, it's like a little
mini trunk.
A little snoofer he's got there.
Tiny arms, kind of like T-Rex.
Because he's miniaturized. He's like squatty. I think that's the biggest thing, It's probably the biggest thing.
He looks like he's seen things.
He definitely. I'm sure he's probably seen some things for sure.
He's seen some things, yes. So, they put in a new lift system in November and December of 1955 that kind of alleviated a lot of the problems that they had. And in 1957, they added something very special to the top, which wasn't there on opening day, which was, of course, Timothy Q Mouse. And I did look up. I was like, what does Q mean? And it's really just like John Q. Public. It's just there's no middle name that I have heard. If anybody knows, let me know. But from what I hear, it's just John Q. And so there's a funny story with this because they put they put this on the top of the ride, and they had Harriet Burns climb up to paint it, and she was terrified of heights. Terrified. So she said, I have acrophobia and I hated that. I said to myself, I'm going to do the best job I've ever done so I never have to do it again. I'm like, I don't know why they couldn't have had her paint it,
Yeah, paint it before you install it.
I'm like, there must have been a reason. I don't know exactly the reason, but she has that vivid memory of having to paint it.
Oh my gosh, I can only imagine. And I'll show you what we have over at World. We got Timothy chilling with a feather, and he's just on the Q section. You know what? Is he on the? Oh, he's not. He's not in the center. No.
He was sculpted by Blaine Gibson, if you remember.
Oh, okay.
Was
famous sculptor.
Famous sculptor. Did all of the Pirates of the Caribbean pirates and a lot of the faces in the Haunted Mansion. And actually, I have a quote from him. It says he recalled a small mishap that occurred during the creation of the Ringmaster. All of the stuff that was done in just plain clay, water clay, and has been wrapped very carefully with plastic in a certain way. I came in and found that someone had opened my Timothy Mouse on top of the Dumbo ride. So I guess he sculpted on top of the Dumbo ride, and it was cracked because it dehydrates, so I had to repair it. Soon Blaine realized that it was a very enthusiastic coworker who couldn't resist a peek. It was Walt Disney that came in, but he didn't know quite what the art of keeping it sealed was. He said it didn't bother me, but
Walt Disney broke it.
Fun. Walt Disney.
I mean, he was so excited, you know.
Timothy.
I don't blame him.
He wanted to he unwrapped it so he could take a peek at it and
and then ruined it. He didn't wrap it right. I want to just show this guy too, because this is over at Disneyland Paris, so a slightly different one, not a disco ball, but sitting on a hot air balloon. It's also, coincidentally, I do want to mention this, that this is the only attraction that exists in every single park. Every single park.
Yeah, it's in a different land though. In Shanghai, it's not in Fantasyland, it's in the Gardens of Imagination. And the Tokyo one, which when we get to Disney World in a few minutes, that one is an exact replica of the original 1971 Walt Disney World. So it's if you are nostalgic for the original one in Disney World, go to Tokyo because you can still see it. Now they did make they recast them, so they didn't have movable ears in, I think it's 1964. 1964 is when they recast them, and I feel like I have a picture of that somewhere. Gosh, I'm disorganized today. I'm sorry, guys. Here, this one. So this is the recast Dumbo with the ears.
Yeah, no hinges.
And then no hinges on that. And then, of course, in 1983, we had Dumbo moved from its location that was near the castle. Sorry, it was behind the carousel. No, it wasn't. Just kidding. Let me look it up. But it moved its location. It was where now it sits where the pirate ship and Skull Rock used to be in Disneyland. So I'm going to pull out the old park map. Oh gosh, I lost all my things. To show you guys where it was. Probably be faster to Google it, but I'm sure I can find it here. Disneyland's 5 Lands. This is a great book if you don't have this for all of the different park maps. It's called Maps of the Disney Parks. Oh, sorry.
I don't, and I'm like a huge... When I was a kid, I loved collecting park maps, so I definitely have to.
You would love this book.
Scoop that one. Mm-hmm.
My gosh, I'm like.
And I do have Disney World already set up because I'll talk about ours changing as well.
Okay. So there, you can see here. This is they had the pirate ship and Skull Rock, and so they and then Dumbo was over here. So they moved it over here. They moved the carousel back from here to reduce congestion. They moved the teacups over near Alice. So they originally were going to move the pirate ship and Skull Rock over to the end of the Storybook Land canal boats. And it would be like a layered attraction where they'd also have a pirate show in it and a pirate juice bar. But when they lifted up the pirate ship to move it, it fell apart because of termites. So they could not move it. They couldn't salvage it, which was super sad because they do have a replica of it in Disneyland Paris. So another place you can go if you want to travel the world to see something.
I think, don't they have a quick service restaurant or a sit-down restaurant in there?
Yeah, I think it is. It's a quick service. Mm-hmm. It's been a while since I've been there. But so then that was in 1983 when they moved it to its current location. But in 1989... I'm almost done with Disneyland, I promise. And you can totally take over Disney World. But
take your time. This is me learning.
Yeah, they moved. So they moved it in 1983, New Fantasyland. But then in 1989, an elephant separated from its lift arm, and it broke an ear. And somebody who was in it was like bruised and injured. They didn't get totally hurt, but just like lightly hurt. But in 1990, the lift mechanism, the whole lift mechanism failed, and the whole Dumbo fell, and the people got really hurt there. So after that second accident, they're like, nope, we're done. We can't do this anymore. So they decommissioned it. They just took it out completely. And they at that point, they were building one for Disneyland Paris. And they decided to buy it from Disneyland Paris because it's like a separate company, really, that operates that. It's like franchised over there. So they purchased the one from Disneyland Paris, and then they restarted building that one again for Disneyland Paris. And that is why it is like such a beautifully ornate carousel. This one actually has the golden one for the 50th in it. But it's because you remember everything for Disneyland Paris was meant to be over the top gorgeous, highly decorative, because that's what they're used to in Europe, is seeing a lot of art and architecture, and it's all very highly ornate. Otherwise, we probably would have had a more simpler Dumbo. And you would notice there, Timothy does have his whip in hand, so that's still there. He had a feather in 2005, and then he had a whip again. So his feather came and went in Disneyland for whatever reason. But I know in Disney World, it's he's got his feather like you showed. I feel like there's one more thing. Oh, there is. So one last thing for Disneyland is we have something that is called the band organ that was built in 1915. It's an actual organ from Europe built by Gavioli. I'm going to mispronounce that. And it was a European circus organ that some collectors found in the 1970s. And it ended up in Disneyland, and it was going to be part of Bear Country. And then they didn't end up using it. It sat in storage. So in 1983, when they did the remodel, they brought it out of storage and they put it behind the ride. It's in here, in this little... Now there's extra tents for the queue around it. But it's inside this little building, and the reason is because it's so loud you can hear it from over a mile away when it's playing. It's so loud because you think of like circus organs, you want to draw people to the circus, right? So they actually put it inside this little house, and so you hear the organ playing. It's actually a 1915 antique organ, which I think is pretty neat.
So,
and it weighs 3/4 of a ton. It's really
here
big.
in Florida, there's I think it's the Barnum Museum, and it's in Sarasota, Florida. We went to it, and there was one of those organs, and I was talking about like needing like 40 horses to pull it. It was huge, and it was
really
all
heavy.
wood, solid. It was gorgeous looking, but it was insane. I was like, man. And when the circus came to town, like no joke, like I think it's hard for us to realize how big the circus was, like in terms of scope, like how many supporting tents there were. How many, like, the amount of meals that they had to serve. Like, you're talking about, like, 20,000 people just to run the circus. Like, I'm not talking about 20,000 people attending. Like, it was insane. So, like, when the circus would travel around, they would take up entire trains. Entire trains would be owned by the circus. Like, it was insane. And just such a massive scale. And, yeah. So, it's adorable.
Yeah. Well, they have these on the top of all of the like lampposts and stuff around this area too, even with Casey
that's
Jr.
cute.
They're painted gold, but yeah, they have this little one. And I mean, I think like the beginning of Dumbo the movie really illustrates that how much work it was to put up all those tents and like drag all the animals and all the things and all the people, and it does a great job of it, like explaining like this is a massive undertaking.
They have this crazy model. I don't know if I'm going to be able to find it really quick, but like this it's like the whole entire grounds, and I don't know what the scale of it is, but it's just insane. Like I remember our kids just looked at this model, and I did too, just trying to fathom how on earth. And this is a tiny section. This is actually just even. Can they even show? Hang on. Here's an organ. That's one of them. They have like 4 in there. But then this giant circus, this thing takes up like 3 rooms. Oh, man, there's not like a big one of it. Sorry, I wasn't really planning on showing this, but it's just so cool, and it's huge. It's absolutely huge and mammoth, and it's just like so cool seeing this setup and like the way that they drew in people this was all the freak show stuff or sideshow attractions, and that would get people into one side. Or if you wanted to go to the main show, like I always think of like how do they handle that many people, that much money? Like it reminds me of like going through tap styles and just man, it's wild. Speaking of
Yeah,
which,
that's
Universal, we went to Universal for Halloween Horror Nights. They go from 12 lanes to 4 to get into the 2 parking garages. It's the most I don't get it. Like they need to do something else because what they have there does not work. It's like
that
the
sounds like its own kind
craziest
of
traffic
circus.
jam. It was. It definitely was. I was like, man, I'm so shocked by this.
I have just a couple more things about Disneyland, and then we can totally go. So this is a lot of people recognize this is the fountain that is now in the queue for Disneyland, and it is roughly where the Skull Rock sculpture used to be. So it's kind of a nod to what used to be there. Some people have said like it's still the same rocks, and I haven't found evidence for that, but that rumor's out there. So I will say that it's out there. And then I have some classic photos of, oh gosh, this one, I found this one of the Matterhorn and it made me laugh so hard because it was the way it looked. This one, I took this one, I didn't take this, but I got this one because of the Dumbo, but look at the Matterhorn in the back. I was like, what is up with that paint job? And that was the year it was built. And sure enough, the next year they completely redid the paint job because I was like, that looks like my child painted it. No offense to my kids. They're great painters. They're great artists. But
Well, you got to, like, once again, it was the first. And could you imagine walking in there? You'd be like, this is so insanely cool, you know? But then everything gets
yeah,
improved.
I mean, it's a mountain. Yeah. I mean, it was its first draft. They always say it's a prototype, right? All these rides are prototypes. If you talk
Prototypes.
to
And
Bosker.
guess what? The guests were the test dummies.
Yeah. And then this one, I used this one recently in a TikTok I made, but like the fact that they didn't have a budget for landscaping is like painfully obvious in this one. And it's just like, there's not a lot of trees on that there hill. So
It's just dirt. It's just displaced dirt. That's where
just
construction dirt, you know?
yeah, because they ran out of money. So
Yeah.
that was
pretty common. Pretty common when building Disneyland.
I just made a TikTok about that I call Landscape Gate because of all they have a whole bunch of ways that they hid the fact that they didn't have landscaping. Like they painted dead plants with green paint, and they use Walt told them to put little like Latin names next to the weeds so people would think that they're like actual
Like a
plants they
fancy
planted.
plant. That's actually really clever. I like that.
It was, yeah. So
I was
anyway,
really disappointed. Speaking of dead plants, at Tower of Terror, they've removed the
dead plants.
dead birds of paradise. I really like those. It was like such a
What?
character. To me, that was a part of like creating the creepy atmosphere. I don't know. I don't know if they were ever real or fake or whatever. But yeah, all the heads of the plants still exist, like the base and the roots and like parts of the stems, but all the heads, like the things that you look for, gone.
they took off their heads, off with their heads. So
Yep,
sad.
it's a wrap.
They painted the roses red.
They certainly did.
Okay, I think we're ready to transition.
Okay.
We're ready.
All right, I'm going to go back to Arrow just for a little bit because there's some things that I just like talking about, and I uncovering it, and their story is so
like,
interesting.
Race through there, so
No. It's cool. So like Arrow ends up creating Dumbo, but I think if you look, and these are just pictures of some of the attractions that they've built, you've probably seen Millennium Force or Scream Machine. Like there's tons of roller coasters that they've been a part of. But Arrow, real quick. They had 6 of the opening day attractions in August 16th. So they had the Mad Tea Party, King Arthur Carousel, Mr. Toad's, Dumbo, Casey's Jr.'s Circus Train, and Snow White Scary Stories. But also our not well painted Matterhorn is built by them. Alice is built by them. And Autopia is built by them. So like when I think about Arrow, and Arrow has so much history of building Disney attractions, it's insane, and like has just built these like crazy, unbelievable ride systems. Funny though, apparently Dumbo isn't good enough for former President Harry S. Truman because in
Oh
1957
yeah.
he refused to ride on it because the elephant is a symbol of the Republican Party. So unless there was a donkey, he was not riding that thing.
He went on the mule rides, like, like over in front of the
Be like, this is more party appropriate.
This is my speed.
Right. The they have we talked about how they went from 10 to 16, and we'll talk about how that actually impacts more of like our capacity is insane at Walt Disney World, just tremendously different. But the real sad thing, and I got to read this quote from Arrow. So Arrow is doing really, really well. They're partners with Disney from like 1955 all the way up until 1971. And this is
When they lost money on the parks too, making it. They did. And then Walt, they were like, they said that it's just an honor to work with Walt Disney, so they didn't mind. And Walt even tried to give them money. I don't know if I'm stepping on your toes. I apologize.
No. You're good. You're good. Well, it's like amazing because like the amount of things that these guys created: 32 roller coasters, 12 different mine train systems, 43 log flumes, 5 space like tilt-a-whirls, 4 rub-a-dubs, which are like these boat rides, 7 dark rides, 20 unique systems, all these different like car locations. It's just like, how could they fail? How could they fail? But sadly, in 1971, Dick Nunis, the executive VP, tells Arrow, so this is the executive VP from Disney, goes, I have to admit that we couldn't have done any of this without you, but it's over now. We built this big facility, and we're going to do everything ourselves. And Dana Morgan, who was running Arrow at the time, said they made it very clear that this is a new era and that they now had all this in-house capacity built up, and they would do everything themselves. And in 1972, they sold Arrow. So, and then Arrow gets sold to Rio Grande Industries, and then gets resold again to this Huss Trading Corporation, and then finally, they end up closing up shop in 2001. They declare bankruptcy, and I just go, "You're telling me, like, designers of some of the greatest ride systems in the world?" That Disney, of course, Disney amazing. Disney can't do everything themselves, but it's just like, it broke my heart that
It's so sad.
one of the most amazing ride creators ever and nostalgia, especially in Disneyland, is just they still are pocketed by a company, but yeah, it's I'm hoping we see some more come from them, but I don't know. We'll see. It's interesting.
Yeah, it's super
So.
sad.
All right, let's get out of sadness and getting upset about a ride manufacturer going bankrupt, but let's look
things
at
we care about.
these. Well, I'm not kidding. I was reading it and getting like emotional. I was like, this is really sad. Like these guys are great. And thank you so much for the subscription. I appreciate you. Thank you, pal. All right, let me flip this around. So if you know my Crocs when I'm live streaming, this is all my Crocs. This pattern, which is the 19.
What? I have that in my book.
There you go, 1971 park map, which talk about, what do we do with this hill area? It's just like nothing, like there's lots of just nothing. Make bigger trees, it'll seem more impressive because there's like nothing, there's nothing here or here so much. Yeah, so Dumbo is shown all the way in the back right here. So right next to the Nautilus, you'll notice 20,000 Leagues, Small Worlds right here, Carousel right here, but there's our flying elephants. And when it originally opens, what Kate has up there is the 10-car system, which eventually gets upgraded to 16. And now we have to... What?
This was not opening day because you'll notice that they have both Timothy and hats, and they did not have Timothy Mouse when it first opened. They didn't have him at all. And they didn't have any hats until 1972, I think, is where they added.
Yeah, that's when the elephants were like, dude, my head's cold. And they were like, all right, we got you.
In Florida.
So,
they're like, it rains too much on us.
So if you look, right, like, I want you to visualize the location for everybody who's watching, right? Oh, thank you so much, Kels. Appreciate you. Thank you for the sub. Over here, you'll notice This is more centrally located. So if we went directly back from the carousel, and I'll show you what that would look like now. So we're zooming to today, right? So here's a carousel. It would have been really right in this area right here. So
Yeah, like where the castle walls are, is what I've heard.
yeah. Yeah. So like Castle Walls, this is where New Fantasyland gets created. And if you don't remember, I was so excited when they announced New Fantasyland. Now, not for Dumbo necessarily, but we were supposed to get this amazing Dumbo fountain that squirted all over the place. We didn't get that. We did get our Casey Jr. train, which over here they show a little piece of it, but it really ends up being that splash pad. But we do get what I would consider one of the coolest versions of Dumbo. It's like Disneyland Paris style attraction with that super, super ornate. And my favorite part is the water. This is just such a small piece that
I have something that's going to make you a little bit mad.
Well, you know what? You can get mad. Like, we originally didn't have the water. What, is there somebody better than us?
You didn't have the water because of the
The
utilidors
utilidors.
originally.
Yeah, you can't have water down there.
Because they had pipes and mechanisms and things. But yeah, so they added the colors to the water, right? Like the lights around it that are colored. Well, after Disneyland didn't have that, they just had the water fountains and not the colored lights. But as after Disney World got the colored lights, Disneyland got more colors.
Okay.
It also has Timothy on the top.
Okay, well, all right. I'm going to go on the record. Let's do it. Here, this is a big moment. I said it earlier on a live, and I just have to unequivocally, Disneyland has better rides than Magic Kingdom.
Magic Kingdom, yes.
Okay, I'm going to differentiate. But the better rides than the Magic Kingdom. And that is unreproached. There's only one ride, Splash Mountain. That's the only one I could have an argument for. Everything else is unequivocally better in Disneyland. It just is.
You think Splash Mountain is better?
I think Splash Mountain is better in Walt Disney World over Disneyland. That's the only one.
Okay.
You're going to take that from me, too? Just, leave me with something. Like, I don't even have my dignity. I'm literally leaving my heart out here. I love Disney World for everything, but fine, take it.
They have like the piece. They have so many pieces from America Sings in Disneyland version that they don't have in Disney World, and that to me gives it a little bit of an edge. And they have an extra piece too of like where you dip down to go in the tree. There's like a whole separate piece that isn't in the Disney World version. I just went on it recently and I was like, oh, I missed this.
Okay, missing it is different than like I'm going to watch POVs side by side. It's been a very long time since it's been 8 years since I've been on Disneyland, but now I'm just mad. Now I'm going to plant my
I know. Come on. I'm going in November. You should come with me. Let's go. Come on. Let's do Disneyland.
I would love to. Let me look at flights.
Okay.
I have no idea how somebody was
I'm going for Dapper Day. You can come do Dapper Day at Disneyland. Come on now.
That's the last day that you'll find me there. I am like, look at me. I'm literally wearing a shirt that says certified flying trash.
Come on.
Mm-hmm. And I'm gonna fly with like an outfit.
We'll get you the Dumbo with the little things that flap. It'll be great.
I'll just this will be my Disney bound for the day. I'll just go around like this.
Oh my gosh. Well, okay, so you showed that concept art, and then like what we didn't get. I feel like we have to pause and say, now remember, with all the stuff that's coming out at D23 this weekend, remember, historically, it's rarely exactly like the model when they finish it. They change the products. Projects all the time. They change. They remove things. They change it up. They realize something's not going to work that they thought would. So take that into account when you see all these models and be like, that's going to be amazing. I'm like,
yeah,
well,
I mean, look, we were
exactly
supposed to get this giant, huge fountain with the elephant spitting, which actually looks a lot like that one piece of the organ as well as the top of the lamppost that you were talking about. That right there, the elephants, that looks very, very similar. But once again, this is concept art. This never actually came to fruition. The one thing, though, that we do have, which, that looks eerily similar. It probably is the exact same, because why wouldn't you, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
The one thing I didn't pull up is that we do have, and our kids have used this before. I don't know if your kids have they ever been to Disney World?
Yeah. We went twice this year to Disney World. Not that we were planning on going twice with them, but we went with family. So
Okay.
we went twice. That's really rare for us.
So
School
inside the tent is this really, really fun playground. So not like you ever really need to use it. The purpose of it was like, oh, you get this little beeper and you wait 20 minutes and you'll be able to cut the line. I've never actually seen it really used like that
I
effectively.
wish they had that. It would be so fun to have
Yeah,
that work well.
it doesn't. It doesn't. It's basically just go play for a little bit and then whenever you want to rejoin the line you do. But it's really cool in there. And look, it's got the fire scene and everything. So, I don't know. I like that part of ours. And then we have storks. We have storks at the top of ours.
Yes.
So
Storks
baby
and-
delivering storks.
And at some point, I can't decide. To me, this looks like Disneyland, but I think it's Disney World. There used to be these like things in line for the kids to do, but it was long before those that amazing playground.
I don't remember.
There was that. And
Look
then
at this mirror, kid. You'll be fine. Oh, pull these blocks around. That's the kids. What you're looking at right now that Kate has up. That's what the Disney Play app is now. So you could have had that, or I forget who I was with. We went on Winnie the Pooh, and I said we went through the actual queue because it was like a walk on. I said, "Welcome to Winnie the Pooh, home of nature's penicillin," and I just rubbed my hand all over the honey where the honey is drippy. That's it. That's how Floridians, we have a strong constitution because we touch that thing to see Tigger, and then we run away, and they've taken all of our hand sanitizers. So yeah, good luck.
Ew. Anyway, I have this concept art too for the Florida one that was open in 2012. I think is when that opened, right? The new Storybook Circus story. That's what Storybook Circus. And yeah, I'm bummed that there's no Timothy on the top of those ones. I know there's storks, but he is on the top of that sign.
Well, do you guys have? Here's a subtle thing. Do you guys? Yeah, we do have him. Do you guys have any of? Oh, man, this is frustrating me that I've lost my ability to zoom in on TikTok. Do you guys have the little tiny scenes that are drawn?
No, we don't have that. That is unique to the Disney World version.
And funny enough, of course I don't have a picture of it. Funny enough, one of these scenes is drinking champagne and pink elephants. Isn't that fun? So
that is fun. It's a nod to this. So this is the Disneyland one. You get to see at the bottom. It doesn't have the
there's little tiny
murals,
little scenes. Yep. Yeah.
Yeah. So, and then I did pull up some from. Did you have any more in Walt Disney World? I didn't want to cut you off. I'm sorry.
I don't. The only thing I was gonna say is here's I like doing hack snacks and fun facts. No joke. If you don't feel like waiting for Astro Orbiter, watching the fireworks from Dumbo at night is awesome. It's a really cool experience. It's just they go off not over your head, but just like towards Be Our Guest and Gaston's Tavern. It's right there. It's so loud. You're up a little bit higher, but you've got a closer vantage point. It's a great time. I'm not making a Hall of Presidents shirt. I can't stand that thing. It's like my least favorite. It's the one thing that is like, no, I'll be over here eating a spicy chicken waffle sandwich.
I'm so mad. My shirt I made for Elliot's not going to be here in time. It's coming like
a
day
really?
after we leave. Yeah. So he's like, I'll wear it next time. I'm like, no, but I made it for you. So I'm sad.
We could just throw spaghetti at him if you want.
Elliot, for those of you who don't know, my husband Elliot wanted a shirt that was Yeti spaghetti, and I made a really fun little shirt for him for the parks, just for him, little custom design. And I'm sad that it won't be here in time before we leave. So,
well, he can still wear it in Disneyland. Go on the Matterhorn and go check out that Yeti.
I know, but he loves Everest is his favorite. So I promised him I'd go on it with him. And I might have to lay down afterwards because I get so motion sick. So
really, roller coasters bother
pray
you.
for me, my friends. Backwards roller coasters bother me.
Oh.
I can do forwards ones just fine, but backwards, if I can't see where I'm going, I'm just done. But I love that ride, so I'm like, I'm just gonna do it anyway. I'm gonna regret it later.
You got to do it for the spaghetti.
Story of my life. Yes. So this one is, I think this one's the Tokyo one. That's the replica of that original Magic Kingdom one with 10 elephants.
And coincidentally, I think the Tokyo one, there's only one of them that doesn't have a. It might not be Tokyo. It might be Shanghai. Doesn't have a elephant that you can sit in and take unique photos in. Only one of them.
Oh yeah.
Doesn't have that.
This
I can't
is
remember which
Shanghai.
one. That probably would make more sense. Shanghai's
Disneyland for
water
sure.
looks very green too.
It does. It has like these tiles at the bottom kind of remind me of like, I don't know, old subway or some kind of bathroom from the 70s. Like it's not my vibe.
It's very Reedy Creek water.
Yes. And then I think that was Shanghai. And then this is Hong Kong. I think this one's Hong Kong. This one. Very similar to Paris.
Paris, yep, for sure.
And then I have a Paris kind of a long shot. They have this beautiful, like, gorgeous fountain around it. It's like,
wow,
just
it's like on an island.
Yeah. It's on it. Yeah. It's everything in Paris is kind of over the top amazing. So the way it's designed. And you can see in the background of this, you can see the teacups too, to the back corner with that little tent.
That that flower, so pretty. Their top, their roof on the teacups, absolutely gorgeous.
It's just, it's hard to beat Disneyland Paris in design. Their design is gorgeous. And this is a little side-by-side of the two. Timothy with a feather, Timothy with a whip. So,
yeah.
I also had one of the lift mechanisms somewhere, but I can't find it. So I think that's all I have. Oh man, we covered a lot.
Yeah, well, I think, and it was only 19 minutes over. I feel like that's pretty good for us. And
this is
what's
the
that?
inlaid mosaics that you stand on in Disneyland for Dumbo.
Oh, wow.
And then
Ours
I
are
have a
terrible.
picture of yours. I have a picture of yours because my daughter was standing on it. So this is the Disney World.
Yeah, it's a sticker. It's like, get on that sticker over there, bud.
Disneyland's got these like super ornate inlaid tile mosaics.
Yeah.
Sorry. I love Disney World and I'm going there and I'm excited.
Don't apologize.
So.
Disneyland is better than Magic Kingdom. I've said it. I agree with you. You don't have to convince me.
It's the original.
I'm not.
So
They've
got to make it nice.
Infinitely better. It's infinitely better. But it's all I got.
Katie Moon says, I missed the whole show. Can you do a quick redo instead of me watching later? That's probably not.
Ready? Here's the short synopsis. I don't know anything. Kate knows everything, and I'm the Dumbo.
Stop.
Done.
Dumbo and trash. Here we are. So we've come full circle.
That would be our morning zoo radio announcer names. You've got Dumbo and the trash. Hey, it looks like the traffic's coming over on I-4.
I-4. I-5 over here. So.
Oh, really?
I-5, yeah. That's our main thoroughfare. Goes all the way down the coast. Like 95 for you guys. Same difference. But anyway, Katie Moon, this show will be available on YouTube on Walrus Carp sometime, and the podcast will be available. I'll probably get that done hopefully by tomorrow. So if you want to go back and re-listen, it'll be up on the podcast. You can listen to anywhere where you love listening to podcasts, or you can watch on YouTube. And Kirk will post that in our Discord, which you can find a link for in our bios, the Pocket Fan Discord. You can also chat with us anytime. And I think at some point here soon, we've got to take a vote on our next longer series that we're going to jump into eventually. I think we got to talk about that.
Yeah, we've been avoiding it and doing these short little ones, which honestly, I like doing the short ones. I think they're
this.
fun. But you're right. We need to get into a multi-month episode again. We never left the Haunted Mansion.
Here's what I know. The Haunted Mansion, what, like 3 months, 6 months? How long were we in the Haunted Mansion? Forever?
Many
a long
months.
Time. It was great, though. It was a journey.
It was heaven.
It was an experience. I would relive it
so
again in
good.
a heartbeat.
Me
and
too.
I'm still finding things about the Haunted Mansion. We got to do like Haunted Mansion Revisited for like new things that we learned.
Well,
like,
I do think Haunted Mansion Holiday deserves its own episode at some point. Maybe in October we do Haunted Mansion Holiday or Christmassy time, whatever. We need to do one. Everybody right now, like if you're a live streamer in Disney, you are going on Haunted Mansion Holiday.
Yep, facts. I've been watching a few of them, and I'm sad that I missed it by a couple days. It was just so. I didn't plan that well. Apparently, I'm just like planning all my trips, so I'm going where I shouldn't be going at any particular time. So I'm like, everybody's at D23. I'm going to Disney World.
I don't think. See, I disagree. I think you're going to
Yeah.
run into not a lot of people at Disney World right
I'm
now.
excited for that. Yeah, especially with my husband. Like, it's how great would it be to not wait in long lines all day and just really enjoy it and take a slower pace? Like, I'm for it. Yeah.
I've been watching wait times on Toy Story Mania, and they're consistently 20 minutes, which really means a walk-on. And I'm like, I need to
What?
sit in Hollywood Studios for like the next 3 weeks.
Let's see. I've got a few comments. I have Olivia says she's going to Disneyland for the first time next July, and she wants me to meet her there. If I'm there in July and I'm there, I'll meet up with you. And Katie Moon asked, can you get Elliot to play the Lullaby of Small World and you sing it? He would play it on the tin whistle. He'll probably bring it. He carries his tin whistle when we go on vacation, and I always feel like somebody's going to complain about the noise in the room next to us. Because he can't bring his fiddle, so he brings that. And he doesn't want to carry his pipes because they're a nightmare to go through security. So he just brings the tin whistle. Yes, he probably could play that for you. I don't know if I'll sing it, but he could for sure. Sometimes we do duets on the piano, which is kind of nice. So anyway, sorry.
Musically inclined
Sorry.
couples.
Well, I think Ellie and I are going to talk a little bit about music in the parks. And I wondered, like, maybe if when we meet up with you, it'd be really fun to do a little bit of that too. Because he could
That
give
would
us some
be
insight.
that would be lovely.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
looking forward to seeing that.
Yeah. Well, I'll see both of you, Jamokes, on Monday and Wednesday.
I know we're doing a red eye, so pray for us. But we're doing a red eye, so we'll be there really early Sunday morning.
Yeah.
Very tired.
I'm glad I won't be hanging out with you Sunday. Sunday, you need to
No.
recoup. You need your.
Yeah. We're gonna rest. That's our goal. Well, and go on a bunch of rides, but the same difference.
Dude, it's so. For those that don't realize, Kate is nonstop ride crazy. Like it's like go ride crazy. I would have never expected it. I would have thought a different pace,
Yeah.
but nope. You better get ready to get on some rides.
You know, I don't even I don't eat, I don't stop, it's rides after rides. So I'll do shows, throw a show in there if I feel like I need to get off my feet, then I'll throw in a show. And I like the shows, but I love the rides. And my husband is all about the food. So
Yeah.
I'm have to take it so much slower when he's there. And I'm always anxious because he wants to just sit and enjoy the ambiance. And I'm like, let's go, we're missing all the rides.
Just don't look at the wait times in my Disney experience. You'll be okay.
Oh
I do eat a
man,
lot
I
of
know.
carbs.
Olivia, thanks. Yeah, I'm looking forward to doing some lives. I'm doing lives with Elliot. I mean, he gives all kinds of interesting perspectives and thoughts. He's teaches philosophy and literature and things, and as well as music. So he's got all kinds of deep thoughts about Disney. So I'm sure we'll have some interesting conversations. I'll be talking history, and then he'll just go off on some sort of what is art tangent, and it'll be a thing. So
I have a feeling that him and I are going to get along really well in terms of and everyone in the live is going to hate us because it's going to be this really weird, heady, cerebral,
Yeah.
dissociated
Yeah.
conversation.
That's what it'll be.
I look forward to it.
Fun. It'll be great. He's really excited to meet you because he's obviously heard so much about you and watched you all the time. So he's so it'll be great.
Yeah, it's going to be a lot of fun. Well, listen, you have a very, very safe trip. And thank you so much, everybody, for hanging out and enjoying Distory. Kate, what do you got?
What do I got for what?
I don't know, just like to say like goodbye and like nice pleasantries. You don't have to don't do anything. All right,
No.
see you guys,
I'm
and
like,
we'll just
I'm like,
end the
do I
line.
need more things? I'm like,
No, you don't have anything. I was saying like, do you have anything to finish it up? You know when we used to have
I'll
like
say,
really good
Olivia, thanks for
chemistry and
becoming a
like
subscriber. I
everything
appreciate
would
that.
flow really nicely. Do you remember that? I don't, but you know, it's
No,
nice
did
to
we
think
ever
that
have
we did.
that?
I don't think that. It's like just water and oil. We
I'm just
figure
like,
it out.
what? What?
What do I do?
That's part of our charm is that we're chaotic and weird and crazy. So it's
I think
fine.
so too.
So
I think so
little
too.
little dash of the ridiculous. Now, my final thoughts are: I will see you in Walt Disney World. I'll see all of you on lives in Walt Disney World, and I'm so grateful you all joined us today for talking about my favorite elephant, Dumbo. And remember, I will say Dumbo is really special to me. This is my final thoughts here. I'm wrapping it up. Dumbo is really special to me because the idea of like don't just fly, soar. And so, I'm always someone who says chase your dreams no matter what. Go after it because life is too short to not do it. So, don't just we can coast along in life and kind of like get by, but why would we if we can truly soar? So, if you're dreaming something, you really want to do something, you've always had in the back of your head to do it, go out there and soar. And every time you see Dumbo, let it be a reminder that you can do what you want to do and what you love to do, what you've always dreamed to do. You can do it. So, final thoughts.
We all have the courage to fly.
Little flappy wings.
Or as Pandora says, and fly. So
Fly. Yes. Oh, yes. I was like, what?
yeah, come on.
I know what you mean. Yeah. No, I got it. Been away from Disney World too long. Got to go back.
No
Guess I'll go
problem.
tomorrow.
Yeah, you should go tomorrow. Why not?
I'll just get on a plane. It'll be fine.
Yeah.
All right.
All right, everybody. Have a great weekend. You have a safe flight. And thanks again for hanging out for another episode of Distory. Kirk from Walrus Carp, Kate, Disney Cicerone. We love you guys a lot. And have a great, great, safe, fun weekend with your families. Adios, guys.
Absolutely. Have a great night, everyone.
Bye.